Welcome to another episode of ECTV's Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, Travis Prince, and today our guest is Mark Woodyatt. Mark, how's it going?
It's fantastic. I'm immersed in music, as usual, you know.
Well, I'm happy you came here to sit and have a conversation with me today. So the first things first, could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, and some of your background?
Absolutely. I'm from Scranton, actually, initially, and I was kind of raised partially between Scranton and Clark Summit. My parents met in 1976, I believe, or 75, and they got married in 78. I was born in 82. I started playing the violin by age 3. My mother could tell I had a good ear, and she did a little kind of experiment on me, which I asked her about recently, and she doesn't recall where I got this idea, but I had this romantic story, and if anybody knows me, it's probably better that I play the violin more than talk. And it's funny because I understand that, and I just kind of laugh at myself because I just feel like I've been blessed with a gift of music that started before I could remember. And there were studies done in the late or mid to late 70s, or at least they were floating around then. They might have been done in the 60s, but it was kind of new information, and it had to do with the response to basically children in utero. I think it actually even had to do with a greater spectrum of the response of matter to music, but that's something that we'll get into because that's kind of where I'm at right now with music in regards to the health.
Using frequency and waves and vibrations to help stimulate brain pattern activity.
Absolutely. And that's a recognized science as well as there's lots of documentation. So just to skip forward for a moment so that you have a little premise as to what I'm going to be playing for you today, and to kind of tie it all together from the beginning. I have been performing up until October at Geisinger as part of a project that I helped launch called Art Heals, and then it became Arts Heal when Geisinger took that over.
Oh, wow. And
I spoke to some doctors who had said that the science was pretty much established after they did 2 years worth of surveys. Where's the camera, by the way, just so I know? I'm sorry.
This is your camera?
There, okay. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I basically performed with a gentleman named Jacob Cole. He's a percussion and drum master that went to the Berklee College of Music in Boston. We met after he had gotten back. We found out we were in preschool together. To make a long story short, because of my partner Lily and Donna Doherty, who was the person who initiated this Art Heals project, this all kind of came together. We were at the farmers market, actually, which is a great example of how farmers markets and co-ops can help people come together. Exactly. We just happened to show up, and Donna was there. I had known Donna for many years, as I've been an active musician in the region ever since I came back from the Eastman School and finished my traveling. So I was pretty much settled here by 2008, and back and forth between 2005 and 8, and pretty much in Rochester up until that point, 2001 to 2005. And I'd be happy to get into more of my history, but I did have something I wanted to share with you. And so for people who don't know me, you'll have to be patient with me because I will follow up on anything I talk about. I went to the Governor's School for the Arts, and that was such an incredible experience. Only now, at 38 years old, am I realizing how that connected the dots for me to be able to appreciate other art forms, as well as it got me into things that I'm now passionate about and interested in, like film and social media.
Yeah.
And it kind of paved the way for me to go to the Eastman School as their first jazz and contemporary media undergraduate violin player. And that was a great experience for me, as well as appreciate my partner, who I might call my wife just because we just decided we're not going to do that the traditional way. But yeah. So basically my wife, if it's just easier for me to say it, my wife is an artist first and foremost, and she's also done all sorts of different.
And she's a musician or a
she's a musician as well. She's like a very talented person. I feel like meeting her kind of established my awareness that there's a greater field of consciousness, because I feel that she's connected to that simply through a very simple meditational practice, which I just heard yesterday from my mother that they're teaching meditation to people who are 7 years old, my niece. So this is wonderful, because I feel like so much music that I create and so much art that's inspired really comes through the inspiration. Yeah. So when I got asked by Donna if we would like to do something, Lily said, Lily's my partner, and she said, why don't you do that with Jacob? Now Jacob Cole, were in Rogue Chimp for many years, and people probably know us as Rogue Chimp. And he and I...
What is Rogue Chimp?
He and I were interested in fusion music when we went to our respective schools for jazz. So Rogue Chimp was a group that I found playing at, I think it was like the Scranton, whenever that festival was. And I think that was put on by maybe Connor at the time. And
Connor O'Brien.
Rogue Chimp was playing in the Manhattan Club, and I had just performed on a stage across the street with Brenda Fernandez, who's another musician. Oh, wow. And an old friend of mine who I've always respected and enjoyed her musical abilities, her artistic abilities. So many different musicians I feel that I know, and some of this has to do with the Governor's School for the Arts, but I've noticed that musicians happen to have connected the dots more, and I don't mean this in any way that makes me feel, I really truly don't see that I'm any superior in the eyes of God or in the eyes of the Creator, in my own personal belief, than anything else. As soon as I start to think that, I get blocked. I get a block in my creativity. Yeah. You know, even if we just live in an intellectual universe created by a computer, it doesn't matter. There's certain rules I've come to experience and accept, and I feel like everybody's got a different relationship to things. So with that said, it's my little disclaimer. I'm not going to try to explain myself every time I say something that might offend anybody. We live in a very sensitive era, and as a musician, I'm just grateful to be able to share music and some insight. The insight that I really feel that my whole life kind of has painted an arrow towards is that we all have the ability to become musicians. You have to develop that early. And fortunately, my mother was keen enough to try out something, which was just, she played music and she sang, and she already had a naturally, I'd say, close to perfect pitch. Now, I have been known to have what they call perfect pitch. It's pretty much better than most anybody I've met in my lifetime, and I have met a lot of people who have developed their skills and gotten to a place that was so beyond, like where they can analyze something and know everything that's going on. And it was something that mystified me. So having perfect pitch is not necessarily like, you know, the ticket to being a musician. I think that I got a lot of slack, or flack, I could say, because people were jealous or just people didn't understand. I did meet plenty of people with perfect pitch. I just have to say I'm very pleased to have an ear that can identify a note, but that doesn't mean anything. Anybody could play music, and I know that I might be wrong, and that's okay. I don't know anything, really. That's part of my philosophical core. But from what I understand, that if you start before the age of 2, then it's possible to develop a virtuoso musician with ease and not, you know, I guess it's kind of like Luke Skywalker, you know, the metaphor to Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. You know, you could start your training at any point, and you could learn to play the violin at age 85. Yeah. And that's a fact. You know, I just feel that my ability to connect and be almost like an ambassador, and it goes beyond me. And at this point, I realized it's more like I'm more like a shaman or a priest, in the sense that I'm able to, and so I try to take that into consideration when I'm approaching any situation, because I realize now the responsibility I have, and it's something that everybody could feel responsible towards, whatever they do. I mean, you know, it's
my thing is, every human is an artist. We all have a innate sense of creativity within ourselves. It's
Yeah.
It's a part of the human psyche. The thing is, some people have a greater natural propensity towards different forms of creativity, and if it's nurtured at a young age, then you can have a savant. And the thing in our society now is that the creative aspects of our human psyche aren't nurtured and nourished enough at a younger age, because we live in this digital soup
of
technological overlay, and it's everywhere. It's crept into every facet of our lives, and
it's time, I think, to let's do that today, because you've brought something up that I feel I might be able to contribute to a greater issue at hand, which is what you're saying.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of distractions. So how do we
calm that
noise? How do
we
personally, right?
And diffuse all of this and figure out what's important and how can we fulfill ourselves as creative beings, and not having this false sense of creativity because we're interacting with a digital format in this virtual reality where you can be great in real life.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's kind of a disconnect that's even happened to myself, and I could see it happen to many people in I guess you could say of an older generation and the younger generation. I think it comes down to mindfulness, and once we're aware of what blocks us from being creative. For example, like I carry this iPad all over the place, and I'm using it to broadcast myself and to record. I've recorded probably 5 to 10 pieces a day, sometimes more and sometimes less, but on average I'd say there are 5 works I do a day for over 10 years. So it's an unbelievable amount of work to sift through, because I realized that my gift, and I've come back into this realization recently, so I can now look at what did I do personally, how can that maybe help inspire people to be creative and to follow their dreams. As you said, there are many distractions, and I realized kind of about a month ago that I was more creative without this thing anywhere near me, because I didn't realize the effects that the electromagnetic frequencies were having, whether that they're even measurable in any traditional sense. There's something I observed, that's all. Simply, I had this with me, and I didn't, and all of a sudden I'm practicing with more focus and connecting back to acoustic instruments. So I found a way to kind of synthesize all of this recently, and I feel like there's a balance. And it's easy to exceed that threshold by becoming distracted.
Yeah, but we're lucky. We're a part of the generation that still has a memory before this. We remember what it was like. No internet, no touchscreen, no digital Wi-Fi, and I think that's
an odd thing to contemplate,
and that helped. I really think that helped develop us more as creators than a 12-year-old who has had this digital overlay in their life their entire existence. We see 100%. that difference in the emergence of the technology, and like you say, that you're kind of aware now that it's helpful, it's a tool, but it's not necessary.
And I've had the great blessing to not have any responsibilities. This is largely in part due to Lily and my life being just absolutely unbelievable, and doing everything that she can to help support my career. Not everybody is. I even myself, I can't even believe I'm so fortunate. But in seeing that support that I have with her, and also my friends, I've got a friend, Benjamin Kornegay, who is a producer, and he recently contacted me for an opportunity that I thought was fantastic. I immediately knew that it was important. This guy, Ben, is a good example of, I guess, one of the ways to maybe somebody would be able to take this and it would help them, because I've noticed, and Ben and I, we both lost a parent right around the same time, and I was teaching violin at his recording studios in Mount Pocono, and I thought his mother was wonderful, and she was able to live with them for the last year of her life, and her health was much better during that time, and I felt like he's a brother of mine. And I mean, I have many people that I feel that with. I feel it goes beyond any color, and that's a kind of a joke, because he just talked to me the other day. He's like, "Man, you're black. What are you talking about?" And like, if nobody knows me, they're gonna go, "You're not black." I'm like, "Well, you know, maybe I'm not." But Thelonious Monk died 20 days before I was born, and I met the guy that lived with him for the last 10 years of his life, and the way that he reacted when he heard me play the violin, he grabbed my teacher at the Eastman School's arm like he had seen a ghost. And I had been holding back the whole time, because I learned more from this guy than I did in 3 years of school. I cannot explain to you, but I got into kind of the philosophy of the Tibetan Buddhist monks, and I thought, amazing, to develop your imagination, to be so vivid, is what we are kind of, if we don't be responsible with our own self, how can we be an example for our children? This is the point I was getting to on that small little thing. In regards to, if anybody is looking to find a balance, I think that the best thing to do is to have restrictions on children. They're not smarter than you, right? They actually, in some senses, they are. And that's something I could go into, because I've just observed this and learned that children are intelligent in a whole nother level.
Exactly.
They get dumbed down, and they get programmed.
And
we've been programmed, and that's what we need to deprogram. That's what's being undone around us right now, and it's a great opportunity for people to come back to the simple things. I think this crisis, which really was what I wanted to kind of touch base on today, before I came, I was thinking about what are people really thirsty to hear, and hungry for, and spiritually, as well as for solutions to the issues that we have. I've got a lot of ideas, and we could be here for 5 hours, but I'll try to hit the points that I think are the most important, and that is that children have absolute potential, and there's a way to learn how to do anything. You could learn how to play the violin pretty well on YouTube. You can basically, there's opportunities with the internet now, and I mean, if I sound like I'm preaching, I'm just trying to get this idea out, because it's avoiding me right now, in the sense that I don't really have a solution for anybody. Let me just tell you what I do. I try to have time where I'm learning. I've learned by being blessed to be around some of the best musicians on the planet that I can imagine knowing, that inspired me. And I lived with people who were very capable at building their own houses, designing sound, and they taught me that the path to excellence is having a mentality that does not think about things and I'm going to get paid to do a job. It's create abundance, and this is a tricky thing, because it feels like you're jumping off a diving board and you're jumping into a swimming pool, but for any creative artist, you have to abandon everything and focus on that project at hand, and just clear.
Yeah.
If it's not possible, there's a way to do it, and that's what I've learned. I'm trying to improve upon myself as a business person, as somebody that's aware, and aware of myself and the greater scheme of things, and what I can do to help, and not to be ashamed of that. I've got to just boldly go and use the skills I have to try to help people see. And that's what I've been doing, is on there's an app called Voicey, which my friend Ben called me about last week.
The music app.
And he said, check this out, I'm a producer. This is designed for you, Mark. The whole world's been waiting for you. And I mean, that's the way I felt.
Voicey is what you record your snippets on every day, the 5 to 10 video clips a day?
Yeah, that actually was happening before.
Oh, wow.
Amazingly. I do between 20 and 30 a day sometimes on Voicey, because they're 1.5 minute long snippets. But I've been working with Jacob Cole. He has a studio album that we did together, and just to kind of connect it to the Geisinger thing, we started to play there for 2 years. The music that came out of that was totally improvised on my part. He would come in with a composition that he would make on this handpan, and having come from a percussion standpoint, he didn't have any theory getting in the way of his creativity. Now, theory is a beautiful thing, just like it's important to kind of know what's in the the DMV book if you're going to get your license test. But it's a whole nother thing when you're driving.
So
right?
you and Cole collaborate on music?
We collaborated on music, and he has an album called Hope, which came out this year, and it's fantastic.
And so, are you going to sample some of your stuff together?
Absolutely. What I did every day, I practice a few hours a day on keyboards, various digital instruments that I play, and on my violin. And if I can't practice, I just try to play, and I try to put myself in a situation where I have to just go with the flow. So this is a recording that I made. I overdubbed some organ to add some atmosphere, and it's a recording that you can find on Jacob's YouTube page as well as mine, called Chill Song. And he was invited to do a world percussion seminar, and so he asked me if I would be able to contribute some video to it. So I figured out how to do video and audio on the iPad with this mixing board. It's kind of cool. I can play different instruments. I can affect the sound. So like the artist that was here before me, who said so much that I don't have to say it. I said to him, he said, "Oh, you could say it again," but he said, "I do whatever I do, and then I play with the colors afterwards." That's kind of what I do. I record something, and then I got into recording engineering,
and then kind of refine it in the end.
And what I was able to do was Rogue Chimp has an album called Embark. These are on iTunes, Spotify, and I was able to produce that, and then Jacob and I have always encouraged each other, so I encouraged him to produce Hope. And I said, "You can do it, I mean, there's nothing that's stopping you." Sometimes that's all you need to hear. That's what friends are for.
A little bit of encouragement.
And so Ben encouraged me, just go for it. So I'm going to go for it right now, and this is just a little tune called Chill Song, and I hope that it says more than I could. Is there any way I could get some water? Thank you.
Waiting for you.
I forgot. Thank you. Yeah, so the music that this Chill Song, the music at the hospital had a measurable effect on the patients as well as the folks in the intensive care unit waiting area, which is where we would play. And to hear that from doctors was amazing, because I mean, this is it went to levels of quantum physics, really, I guess, because how could somebody in a room that's not nowhere near their family be affected by the music? I don't know. I just know. I realize that's the hidden power of music, and that's why everybody should be playing music, because it's the way to unity in this world that we live in that seems like it's chaotic. If you pick up an instrument and you play, even if you're just tapping a beat or you're listening to some music, it's the way that I can relate to and highly recommend, that I think is the path to world peace and unity and understanding, because you see beyond all the boundaries. With that said, I hope you guys enjoy Chill Song. It's Jacob Cole in the handpan.
Wow, dude. That was excellent.
Thank you very much.
That was excellent. Well, Mark, I really appreciate you coming through the studio and sitting down and chatting with me, man.
Having me. It's a pleasure. And I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Definitely.
Anytime you ever want to rap about anything. I mean, the one thing that I wanted to share, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There's a rehearsal that I'm about to go to, and there are some musicians, Roy Williams from New York City. We grew up around here. He's a virtuoso musician. We both taught in Switzerland, he traveled all over the world. He's a great gypsy swing guitarist, and we've been in the Bug Swing group. There's been quite a few different recordings, I think, that are even in the ECTV archives.
Oh, wow.
But we've got a new group that he just sent me the name of it, because I said, what's the name of the group? Dutch Hollow. And it's Nick Driscoll, the virtuoso saxophone player. He plays clarinet, he plays bass, he's a multi-instrumentalist. Wow. Leo Schott, who was the greatest, I could say, Celtic Irish music teacher that I've ever had, and he was one of the world champions at one time. And he plays the Ulan pipes, which are like bagpipes. So this is like, Scranton is a town that was founded, with the mining, with the steel and industry. A lot of Irish people, but the thing is, the prehistory stuff is kind of interesting, because I really feel like the music is what connects us, and it's also the way that this city eventually became known as the place where, if you can't make it in Scranton, you can't make it anywhere.
You can't make it nowhere.
People around here they love music, and we've taken such a hit with the economy. I haven't had any gigs since the day after my birthday, March 12th. Now, I do post everything on my soundcloud.com/Mark-Woodyatt site. I do have YouTube. I've got the Voicey violinist extraordinaire. That's the hashtag on Instagram. And if people want to help support me, and people have asked me, so I'm just going to say it, paypal.me/Woodyatt music. That's WOODYATT. MUSIC, and it's, you know, I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful, and everything is really looking up, and it's like my whole life has prepared me for these hardships, and I'm just somebody that is excited to be able to be here to share with the local and international communities, because you can do it on your phone. You know?
Exactly.
Use it as a tool, and don't let it divide.
Yeah.
You know, and turn it off at night. You know, my mom, she survived cancer, and she's a resilient lady, and she listened to me, and I'm glad she did, because I just said, Mom, you know, don't sleep with the phone next to your head. You know. And this group, Dutch Hollow, is going to be playing sometime soon. So please, if anybody's interested in checking us out, we would appreciate just having an audience. And I know people are probably really itching to hear live music. And
Definitely
when it comes to all the issues with the coronavirus and you know, the different, I'm going to say this for it's just a prediction. I could be wrong, but in the future, people are going to look at this and go, that guy was probably right. I think we already had herd immunity by January, like for the most part, in that a lot of the measures that had been understood to maybe help that were just put into action actually create more of an immunosuppression. And that's just because I'm a learner. I take in a lot of information. That's the best thing that I probably could say about my mind. And I stopped listening a long time ago to any television or news. So this is the only channel I'm going to watch, and I did it for my art and for people, because the music that I create, I know is something that needs to be shared, and everybody, I hope I can encourage them to pick up an instrument and to know that it's possible to be able to make music and to be creative, and that you can always learn every single day. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I didn't have that attitude, and I'm just grateful to be able to have a way to share that. So thank you for having me, and thanks to everybody here, to Chris and Mark at ECTV as well. And it's a pleasure to meet you.
Travis?
Travis, I look forward to seeing some of your work, and to future conversations and hopefully collaborations.
Definitely. Thanks for coming by.
That's my...
This has been another episode of ECTV's Roundtable Discussions. I'm your host, Travis Prince, and today our guest was Mark Woodyatt. Thank you for watching the show, and we'll see you next time.